Hello, my name is Bianca Dickerson, and I will be your trainer for today. Today's training will be on outbound calls, and we'll be looking at follow-up and then a brief introduction to quality assurance calls. By the end of this training, you should be able to understand the purpose of follow-up, identify who should receive a follow-up, propose and close a follow-up call, know when to follow up with the inquirer, demonstrate the ability to document a follow-up call, and have a basic understanding of quality assurance calls. Now let's talk about the importance of outbound calls. There are two types of outbound calls. The first type is a follow-up, and the primary focus is to ensure that the inquirer's needs were met or just to make sure that they're okay. And then the quality assurance survey gauges our caller's experience by gathering information on their interaction with the contact specialist and the program as a whole. Okay, so next we're going to talk about who should receive a follow-up. Now, not all inquirers need to receive a follow-up contact. Good candidates for follow-up include vulnerable individuals with critical basic needs who face serious situations. Basic needs are defined as resources that are critical for survival, such as food, clothing, shelter, heating and cooling, and individual safety and security. Serious situations are those in which a vulnerable individual or household is at risk of losing a basic need. So as you can see, we've provided a visual for you. And so those who are vulnerable population are either those who are age 60 and over, 18 and under, disabled, or individuals in dangerous situations such as domestic violence. And then basic needs would include clothing, food, shelter, heat, cooling, or individual safety, security. So according to our graph, we have a vulnerable population plus a basic need equals the suggested follow-up. So if there's someone who's age 60 or over and they're looking for food, you may need to follow up with them. You also want to base this off of how they're handling the situation. So if there's someone who's age 60 and over and who's looking for food, but they seem like they're okay, you may not need to follow up with them. But if you have someone on the phone who seems like they're not handling the situation very well, then that person's a good candidate to follow up with. And then also anyone in a serious situation equals a suggested follow-up. So if someone is about to, if their electricity is about to be cut off or that they're about to be evicted, you may want to follow up with them. And again, that really does also depend on the way the person's handling the situation. Because there are some callers that handle the situation far better than others, and you may not need to follow up with them. All right, and then let's talk about when to follow up. So follow-up timing. In endangerment situations, the follow-up should be conducted within 1 to 3 days of the initial contact. So if there is someone who they're about to be evicted from their home the next day, you may want to follow up with them that next day just to see if they were able to receive assistance or just to check on them, to do a basic wellness check. In less serious situations, a follow-up should be conducted within 7 to 14 days after the initial contact. And you don't want to wait. You don't want to call them past 14 days. Sometimes because our callers are calling multiple places, so by the time they get to us, they've called multiple places. And so they may end up forgetting that they called 211. So you want to make sure that you call them between between 7 to 14 days. And you can call them on day 5 or 6 if you like as well. Follow-up should only be conducted between the hours of 9 a.m. and 8 p.m. Monday through Saturday, unless the client requests a specific day and time outside of those hours. So if, for example, the caller is like, I work all day and I get off at 10 o'clock. Are you available to call me? Now, if you work till say 10:30, then yeah, you could definitely call that person. Also, unless you do not have a choice, avoid conducting follow-ups during peak or busy hours. So our busy hours are usually Monday and Tuesday. So you normally want to avoid doing outbound calls during those days unless you're in a crunch for time and you need to get your follow-ups done. And here are some follow-up guidelines. You want to make sure that you gain permission to follow up with that person. So you don't want to just, say, okay, I'm following up with you. You want to make sure that you ask the person if it's okay. So for example, is it okay if I follow up with you or call you back in the next few days to see how you're doing or to see if you were able to receive any assistance from these organizations that I've provided you with that I have provided you with? You also want to make sure that when following up with a person that you don't leave a voice message unless the caller says otherwise. So if the caller says, yeah, you can follow up with me and please leave a message if you call and I don't answer, then that's totally okay. And then you also want to verify that you're speaking to the right person. So when conducting a follow-up, you want to make sure your opening doesn't give away your identity or the identity of the company. So you might say, hello, is this such and so, right? And then if the caller says, yes, this is her, or this is she, or this is he, then you can proceed to say, well, hello, my name is Bianca Dickerson. I spoke to you a few days ago. I'm calling from 211 Virginia, and I want to know if you were able to receive any help with your electric bill. So you want to make sure that you state your name, state the name of the organization, and quickly review the call so that you could jog the person's memory. So you called about your electricity. You said that you were that it was being disconnected, and I just wanted to follow up with you and see if you were able to receive any assistance. Now, if the caller on the other line is not the inquirer, the person that you spoke to last time, then you just want to thank the caller and say thank you for, thank the person on the other line for answering, and then just go ahead and get off the phone. And if they're persistent, just keep thanking them. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you answering the phone. I'll call back a little later. And also only contact inquirers if it is safe. So for those who are victims of domestic violence, they should only be contacted unless the inquirer makes it clear that a follow-up call is safe. So if I'm conducting or if I'm proposing a follow-up, I might say, okay, is it okay if I give you a call back? Will it be safe to give you a call back? And if the caller says yes, then you may want to ask an additional question like, okay, what days are best for you? Are there days that are safer than other days? What's the best hour to call you? Also, follow-up should generally be conducted by the contact specialist that handled the initial call. However, there are times that you may not be here. You might be on vacation. You might be sick. And you could ask another contact specialist to follow up with an inquiry, especially if the person is expecting a call on a particular day. Or you can ask your coach or supervisor to do the follow-up. All right. And then once a call has been scheduled for follow-up, 3 attempts should be made to reach the client. After the 3rd unsuccessful attempt, close the follow-up. And then follow-ups remain open until closed. So you have to make sure that you close your follow-up, okay? And then in some situations, you may elect to make more than 3 attempts to follow up. This should depend on the seriousness of the client's need. Once you reach the caller, you want to ask them if the agencies that you referred them to, if they were able to get any assistance with their bill. So you may say, Hello, Mr. Smith. This is Bianca with 211 Virginia. You called us last week regarding utility assistance. You were referred to two agencies. Were you able to get any assistance with your bill? And if the need was met, you just want to say, okay, that's great news. Is there anything else I can do for you today? And then if the need was unmet, you want to ask, like, which agencies did they call, and why were they unable to assist them? And then if additional resources are available, you want to go ahead and offer to provide more agencies to contact. And then you just want to close it out. Just end the call regularly. Thank you for calling 211, or thank you for your time. Please call 211 Virginia again if you need anything else. And remember, we are a 24-hour organization. So just give us a call back whenever you need us, okay? So now we're going to talk about how to propose a follow-up. So to propose a follow-up, you want to ask an inquirer for permission to follow up. And then in the notes field of the contact record, you want to go ahead and select yes from the drop-down menu, asking, do you want to follow up? Enter the notes in the field according to the documentation protocol, and select the date you would like to propose your first attempt at a follow-up call, and then select save. So let's go ahead and demonstrate this process. Okay, so we are going to use the profile Bob Newby. And Bob Newby is a 71-year-old veteran, and he is in need of electricity. And as you can see, I have here electric disconnect today. He needs $150, and his wife is on a CPAP machine. So you know that he is someone in need, and he's in a vulnerable population, and also has a basic need that needs to be met immediately. So he's in imminent danger of a utility cutoff. All right. So I want to go ahead and I want to follow up with Mr. Newby. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the drop-down box where it says, do you want to follow up? And click yes. And this again is going to be in the notes section. So as you can see, the demographics are up top. And then below, we're at the notes section. So you want to go ahead and click yes. And then you want to go ahead and select do not call for QA. And the reason being is because we don't want you to follow up and then a quality assurance specialist to also follow up. We don't want to bug them. So then you want to go ahead and propose a follow-up date. And and if you can remember, those who are in endangerment situations should be followed up within 1 to 3 days. And he seems like he's in an endangerment situation, especially since his wife is on a CPAP machine. So we want to go ahead and give him a call within the next few days. So I'm going to actually set it to Thursday, a day later. And that's because his electricity is going to be disconnecting today, right? And then from here, if you can see where it says assigned to, so it's assigned to me. But if I wanted to assign it to someone else, I could assign it to John Leslie, or maybe Margaret, another coach. And then you also want to go ahead and if it's someone who is calling on behalf of Mr. Newby, then you want to go ahead and record it here. So who to contact, and you can either put other or person in need, and really this is the person in need. And so then you want to go ahead and click save. All right, and we now have proposed a follow-up. And now that we propose a follow-up, you in the bottom of the information referral, you're going to have all your referrals. And then you want to go ahead and save and complete when you're done, okay? So we're going to go ahead and save and complete this. Okay, and so now we're going to shift our focus to documenting follow-up notes. And so we'll briefly go over how to do it, and then I'll demonstrate the process, okay? So to document follow-up notes, you want to go ahead and select the record and gig gear that you would like to follow up with. And you would do that by going to the INR menu, selecting follow-up in the drop-down box. And then you would find the record that you're looking for. Once in the record, select follow-up as a type of note. And then if you spoke with the inquirer, select the date reached and mark the call status as reached or pending. And then if you are if you did not speak to the inquirer, you want to go ahead and select did not reach. If you reach the inquirer, select follow-up status. There's pending, there's resolved, and there's also unsuccessful. All right, and then once you're done, you want to go ahead and scroll down to the bottom of the contact record to listing name and program type of the agency referrals. You want to go ahead and select the appropriate status based on the current state of the referral. So that's going to be met, unmet, or in progress. And so met is a need that has been met by the agency. So if they were able to receive help from that agency, then you would put met. And then if they were unable to receive help from an agency, you would put unmet. So they may have received help from, say, social services, but did not receive help from those other two organizations. So you want to put met for social services or whatever organization helped them, and unmet for the organizations that didn't. And then if the caller says, yeah, the organizations are, or they said that they think they may be able to help, then you might want to go ahead and notate it as in progress, which is the follow-up outcome is pending. So let's go ahead and demonstrate this process. So you want to go ahead and scroll all the way to the left corner of the screen and scroll over the INR tab. And then you want to go ahead and scroll down to where it says follow up and stats. And so from here, in this small box, you'll see the date and range. You'll see all calls, any follow-up stat, and then your information as well. You want to make sure that the date range is within the month that you called them. So March 1st to April 1st is, it will show up because I just made the call today. But say, for instance, I made the call in February. I want to go ahead and select, say, February 1st to February 29th, so that month, that period. So, for example, if I'm doing follow-up for March, I want to do March 1st to March 31st, okay? Let me go ahead and change this back. And then I want to go ahead and I want to select the follow-up status. And so the follow-up status is going to be proposed follow-up. And then from here, like if you wanted to look at other people's follow-ups, you can go to the drop-down box and view other people's follow-ups. You can also you could find complete and incomplete calls in this section as well. All right. And then you're going to go ahead and click the search button located on the far right side of the screen. And I see that there is a Bob Newby here. So we're going to go ahead and follow up with Mr. Newby. So I'm going to click on his name. All right, and then I'm going to go ahead and scroll all the way down and to the notes section. And in the notes section, you see type of notes. I'm going to go ahead and click on follow up. Right. So, for instance, if the person has not called, or if the person answered, I'm going to go ahead and put follow up. First attempt, and say the caller received help from social services. So I'm going to say received assistance from one place, but did not receive help from other organizations. All right, and then I'm going to go ahead and mark the call status as reached. Now, if I was unable to reach him, then I would put did not reach. But I was able to reach this person, so I'm going to click reached. I'm going to go ahead and put the follow-up status as resolved. And I'm going to go ahead and close follow-up. But say, for example, this person was unable to receive assistance. I would still keep the type of note as follow-up, select did not reach, and go ahead and add a new follow-up note to follow up with them again. And then again, after 3 times, you want to go ahead and close out the call. And then you're going to go ahead and scroll all the way to the bottom. And you're going to go ahead and put the status as either met, unmet, or in progress. So again, I said that Bob Newby received assistance from social services. So I'm going to go ahead and click met. And then he did not receive assistance from Salvation Army or Neighbor to Neighbor. So we're going to talk about the unmet need, okay? So when documenting an unmet need, it is important to determine why the client may have unmet needs. This information is helpful to determine if there are gaps in the system or opportunities to recruit new agencies into the database that may help address a critical need. It is very important to document any unmet needs and the reason those needs are unmet. So these are examples of unmet needs. So no resources in the area, basically meaning so if Mr. Newby was looking for utility assistance and there wasn't anything in his area that could help him, we would go ahead and document it as an unmet need. Does not meet eligibility requirements or guidelines. So some organizations require you to be a certain age or require you to have a disconnect notice, or already used available referral. So what if Mr. Newby's already used all the agencies available, and there are some agencies that say you can't use this again, or you can only use this once a year or once every 6 months. And that's why it's also important to probe a little bit so you can just gain an understanding of which referrals will work for them and which won't. And then, of course, if Mr. Newby has called the places and maybe they were out of funds, or maybe he just didn't want to call them. So there's a list of unmet needs, and we're going to talk about, we're going to go ahead and switch over to Get Care, and I'll show you how to mark the unmet needs. So to mark an unmet need, you're going to go ahead and go to the status drop-down box and mark unmet. And you're going to go ahead and mark unmet again. And then in the outcome section, you're going to go ahead and click on outcome. And you're going to select the reason why he was unable to receive assistance. So maybe his application is pending, or maybe he did not contact a referral. So we'll go ahead and we'll, select it as inquiry did not contact referrals. And then once you're done, you're going to go ahead and save it. And then save, and then you're done. All right, and lastly, we'll quickly talk about quality assurance calls. And quality assurance is just another type of outbound call. Not every contact specialist will be making quality assurance calls, but we'll talk about the questions. So the questions that a quality assurance specialist may ask are, how would you rate the helpfulness of the information received from 211? How would you rate the knowledge level? How would you rate the overall satisfaction? Would you use 211 Virginia again? And would you recommend 211 Virginia? And then did you contact any of the agencies? And so these are some of the questions that we ask, and this is just to gauge our service. All right. Well, thank you so much for viewing this tutorial, this training. If you have any questions or concerns, please contact Laura, Margaret, or me. And thank you so much. Have a good day.